Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm George, and today I'm here on the beach that I painted yesterday. I painted a sunset, and when I was painting, a lifeguard who was watching the painting told me about this trail and actually showed me in the dark through the forest on these rocks in front of me, and you basically walk up this jungle path and then get to a spectacular view at the top. So when I walked up here last night, it was dark and I saw some giant frogs. And even in the dark I could see that the view of the sea was quite spectacular. So I'm basically going to go up here again and paint the view. So I've done a lot of paintings at sort of sea level, so let's climb up through this forest in front of me and then do a painting of a vista. Here's the trail up ahead, quite a small path. And the nice thing about this place, he said, is not many people really know about it. Everyone seems to spend their time on the beach, and this sort of small path through the rocks and the forest would be quite an interesting place to paint. So let's do a bit of exploring. So last night I thought that was a snake, kind of freaked me out a bit. Now I can see clearly that it wasn't a snake. You do have snakes in this part of Brazil. I haven't seen any yet, but I did see some giant frogs jumping around, which was a bit startling but quite interesting to see. We're sort of climbing up in this forest, getting closer to the spot which will make a nice composition to paint. So I haven't seen it. Oh, something in the undergrowth there. I think that was probably a frog. I haven't seen it in the light. I only saw this view at night, so things always look very different in daylight, and I'm quite excited to see how this view is going to look. Luckily it's got quite a nice stone path, so it's not too hard for me to do in my flip-flops. And here we are at a break in the trees, big rock in front of me, and look at that. Really beautiful view over the sea. This will make for a nice painting. So I found my composition here. I'm going to focus on painting the rocks and the waves crashing into them. I do have a nice view behind me as well, but as I did that sunset painting last night, basically of the view behind me, I want to do something different and paint a painting which should really focus in on the rocks and the sea interacting, and trying to get those blue turquoise colours to the waves, and then those warm browns and oranges and purples in the rocks. And then a bit of the trees as well leading in from the right hand side. And what I've done is I've applied a imprimatura, so a quick underlayer wash to my panel, which is oil primed linen that I've taped to a board. And the way I've applied that wash is I've applied it more or less in the same way that the scene is, with the sort of blue for the sky, green for the trees, and then brown for the rocks in the foreground. So it's a very loose, rough overall sketch of the big compositional shape, and now I'm going to start sketching with raw umber and refining those shapes. So on my palette today I've got titanium white, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium red, carmine red, raw umber, cobalt blue, English green light, ultramarine blue, violet, and emerald green. So let's start painting. I start by sketching in the shape of the contour of the jagged rocks against the sea using raw umber paint. I've placed the horizon line quite high up on my canvas, which gives me room to really focus in on the rocks and the sea interacting with them. One of my favourite things about painting the sea, especially on a sunny day like this, is painting all the subtle shifts in colour. The general sea colour has a low chroma blue, which is slightly purplish in hue, and where the waves are raising up out of the water, they have a more green turquoise hue with white froth in the areas where they break. As I've been painting, the mist in the distance has lifted a bit and more blue sky is now visible. So I'm painting this in here as I feel this looks nicer than just the light grey of the mist which was there before. This blue sky is also being reflected into the sea, creating a brighter blue hue to some areas of the water. Also, as the mist over the horizon has lifted, I can now see some quite impressive mountains in the distance. These add a bit more balance to my composition, which is quite right side heavy, so these mountains add a bit of visual interest to the left hand side of my composition. To paint these mountains, I'm only painting the tops of the mountains and then softening the paint mix into the horizon until the edges are completely lost. And if you happen to find yourself on Tenorio Beach in Ubatuba and you want to get away from the busy hustle and bustle of the crowded beach, and as you've stayed to the end of this video, I'm happy to share it with you. There's a small crack between the rocks which leads to a nice jungle path which will get you up to this nice viewpoint which is very secluded and peaceful. I was lucky that a local showed me this spot, as many people don't know about it, and I'm really happy that I got up here and painted because it was just such a beautiful and peaceful place to paint. So I hope you enjoyed that video of me painting the sea and the rocks from a nice high point in Ubatuba. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at George Frederick Thomas. And if you're wondering how I carry my wet paintings, well, this is me here assembling my Alla Prima art carrier, which is a design that I created to transport my wet paintings when I'm traveling, and I've put a link in the description because I sell these online. You can buy them through the link, so that way you have a nice practical way of transporting wet paintings when you're painting plein air.